Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, I'm Tash, and this is a podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing, and I also put out regular tutorials. So it's Thursday the 10th of April, and I'm recording from Sydney, Australia. I have one finished object to show, and I actually hadn't even started this last episode. This is the Sophie Shawl by Petite Knit. It's my first time making the Sophie Shawl. I've made the scarf version a few times, but this is my first, very large version with the more frequent rate of increases that's in the Sophie Shawl pattern. So the yarn that I used, actually I'll put it on because it's just so lovely. I want to have it on around my neck. This actually isn't for me. This is for my friend Amy. But I'll have it on briefly while I talk about it. So the yarn that I used is Cardiff Cashmere Small, which is a light version of their classic. So there's 170 meters in a 25 gram ball, and I used almost 3 balls. So this is what's left of the third ball. I had 3.5 grams left. And the yarn that I held with it, just show you, it's got this really lovely halo. The yarn that I held with it is a new yarn from Cardiff called Prime, and it is 68% cashmere and 32% silk. So it's got a like a silk core, but the silk actually blends quite nicely with the color of so it's not like a white core or whatever. It's blends really nicely with the color of the brushed cashmere which is around it, and it is so deliciously soft. This would have to be the most luxurious, loveliest thing I've ever made, and I think my friend Amy is really going to like it. So the length of it, it's 225 centimeters or 88 inches, and the width at its widest point is 11 inches or 28 centimeters. I think that's actually even though that's really long, like 225 centimeters is really long, but it means you can wrap it around quite easily with a bit of space. You could even wrap it around again, and it's got these really lovely tails that, like if you wanted to wrap it another time, it wouldn't be too bulky around your neck. And it's just so soft. And obviously it's about as next to skin lovely soft as you can imagine it would get. So the needle size that I used, the shawl is actually more like for a heavier weight. So when I put these two together, the needle size I used was a 4 millimeter, so I didn't remotely get gauge. The pattern is a bit more like a recipe. I don't actually even own the Sophie Shawl pattern. I own the Sophie Scarf pattern, and I just use that, but just increased more frequently, which from what I understand is the difference between the two patterns, and obviously a different gauge. But it's kind of gaugeless. You can use whatever needles sort of match your yarn. So for me, these two together worked really nicely on a 4 millimeter needle, and I was just weighing my yarn because I had 3 balls of it was this that was sort of my limiting factor. I had 3 balls of this, so that's a total of at 170 meters each, that's a total of 510 meters, which I knew should be enough for about the medium size, but of course my gauge was a bit different. So I just increased to 72 stitches for this, and that seemed to be about right, and obviously I didn't run out. I probably could have increased 1 or 2 more times, but I didn't see I figured it was going to be long enough, and actually any longer it would maybe start to get a little bit just crazy long. And I think this works totally fine. So with the length that it is, that's around one around, but I could definitely do a second time around, and it would just be nice and sort of close up to the neck, but still with some ties there. My friend Amy is a little bit taller than me, but I still think it will work well for her. So yeah, I'll take it off. I don't want to get any makeup or anything on it, because it is her birthday this Sunday coming up, so I want to give that to her. And yeah, I'm so delighted with it. I do think if you own the Sophie Scarf pattern, you don't need to buy the shawl pattern. It's pretty much the same thing. You just increase a little bit more frequently, and you can use whatever yarn you have. Just use something that sort of is going to give you a bit of drape. Like I could have used a smaller needle for this, but I think a 4 millimeter worked really well. I don't think there's anything else I want to say about it, except that I'm just like, yeah, this is so lovely, and I definitely enjoyed making it more than I've enjoyed making my Sophie scarves. I actually find I quite like it when I'm at my longest point and my rows are quite long, but when I'm on the really short rows and you turn, like it really slows me down. It feels like it takes me forever to make. So it's probably not my favorite scarf pattern, but I definitely enjoy it when the rows are really, really long. It's just, it just feels like these bits at the end, it feels like it took forever to finish. Like when if you just think about it in terms of yarn usage, I was burning through the yardage at this section, like going through it really, really quickly. And then it just felt like, took a really long time towards the end, but really lovely project and my one finished object to show. So just a little bit more about the yarn. This was actually gifted to me by Cardiff Cashmere as part of a collaboration with Yarnacopia. So Cardiff is the brand that Yarnacopia will be spotlighting in May. So Erica will be taking, from Yarnacopia, will be taking pre-orders in May for Cardiff Cashmere, which she will then order and then distribute in June when that arrives. So, but Cardiff also they've already sent me some other yarn to use, but they also sent some additional yarn, some of this prime, because this is their newest base. I think this is actually a fantastic substitute for silk mohair, particularly if you find that a little bit irritating to mohair, a bit irritating to the skin. The yardage in this is excellent. So 25 grams is 300 meters. So, but it has the, I guess you would say the volume that would be similar to, say, a 25 gram around 200 meters of silk mohair. So 2 balls of this would be equivalent to about 3 balls of most standard 25 gram silk mohairs. So, it's obviously a luxury fiber. It's definitely going to add to the cost of your project, but you would certainly need less balls than you would of a silk mohair carry along. So yeah, I'm really excited to be using it and to have used it for that Sophie Shawl, and I feel really safe giving it to my friend knowing that she is going to absolutely love it and it's not going to bother her at all around her neck. Moving on to my works in progress, I have one new work in progress which is actually almost finished, and this is the Lulu Slipover by Petite Knit. And I talked about this last episode that I plan to make this for my friend Amy. And then I started getting just a bit nervous about the fit and the length, and I really wanted her to have something that was finished on her birthday, but I just got nervous about the yarn, I got nervous about the size. Nervous is probably too strong a word, but I just really wanted something that was complete to give to her, and this is not going to be finished by her birthday, which is only 3 days away, but I do want her to try it on before I move forward with it. So I'll just talk to you a little bit about it. It's the Lulu Slipover by Petite Knit. I'm using the colour Sandnes Garn Peer Gynt, which I bought this yarn. This is the colourway Charcoal Melange, and it's really, really lovely. It's the colour that's actually in the pattern photo. There's a couple of pattern photos, but it's the one that Petite's wearing in like the main pattern page. I'm knitting the medium size, so my bust, so you're seeing it on me, it's looking too big on me. My bust is 32 inches, my friend Amy's bust is 37 inches, so I'm knitting the medium size, which is meant to, it's funny, it says a finished garment measurement of 45¼ inches, but it's open, right? So I don't know where they get that number from, but it's obviously meant to be like have positive ease, and I guess if it was complete, maybe it would be about 45¼ inches. Anyway, when I measured this across, that is 15¼ inches. So that only, and I'm on gauge. Gauge is 20 stitches and 30 rows. I'm getting stitch gauge, but my rows are a little bit taller. Other than that, though, it's the recommended yarn, right? And I'm using the recommended needle of a 4mm needle for the body and a 3mm for the ribbing. So you start on the back and then you knit down and then do all these increases out for this armhole, and then work down, do some ribbing, and you can see I've got on some waste yarn there. Then you pick up stitches for the front, same thing, work down a bit, join here, work down, increases for the armhole, more ribbing, also on, I think this is on a tube. Anyway, so I wasn't sure about the length, like for how Amy would want to wear it, and even though she's taller than me, and also my row gauge was taller, so I'm like, oh, it's starting to get a bit long, maybe, and I thought I don't want to do the whole tubular bind off on the front and the back. Oh yeah, so just mentioning for the construction, after that I picked up stitches around the armhole knit this flat and did a tubular bind off because I felt fine about all of that. It's just that I'm at the point now where after I do this tubular bind off, I then need to pick up stitches along this both sides here and do a double knit button band here and here with couple of buttonholes. So 4 of those. And I thought, you know what, that's if it's too long or too short, I'm going to have to rip all of that out, and that's going to be really annoying. So I'd rather gift her the scarf, and I will give this to her, but if it's too long, I can rip back a little bit of the ribbing. If it's too short, I can knit a little bit more. So she is taller than me. I think the way she'll plan to wear it is over like a, actually I'm wearing like a blouse. So I'll pull that out, like over that kind of thing, and then, so I'll sort of like attach it like that. So you can see it's probably getting a little bit, it's probably a bit long for me. Maybe for her it's fine, maybe it's a bit too long, it's probably not too short. But yeah, just in terms of the way she'd want to wear it, we'll just like pin it here and then, you know, get her to try it on over a blouse and then see if it looks right, or if I need to like rip it back a little bit. I really don't want to rip back all of that ribbing. I hope if it's a bit long, I can just take a bit of the ribbing out. But yeah, so because my row gauge was longer, I probably should have started doing these increases a little bit earlier, but I still think it's going to work okay. But it's just, there's not as much straight as there would be if I had started the increases earlier. Anyway, I'm talking about this a lot. It's not finished yet, but you know, like I've made this, I don't know, I started this, I think, the day I recorded. So this has been on the needles for 2 weeks. It does knit up really quickly. So those 2 projects, like this one and the Amy scarf, I hadn't even started that last week. So yeah, so but I'd rather get this right than have to do a whole lot of unknitting. So I'm hoping this will be done by, oh, I also need buttons, right? So yeah, I'll probably have to do like a little trip into button shop in Newtown, or even just our big box store in Spotlight. I only need 4 buttons, I think. So yeah, other thing, the other change I made was when I picked up the stitches for the neckline, I was a little unsure. This actually feels really nice and soft to me, but other people that I know that have felt this have sort of gone, oh, that's a bit scratchy. So I thought, oh, like I would be fine with it around my neck, but I thought just in case. And also I think it looks nicer if you're going to wear it with a button up, to like, because it's meant to have a turtleneck. So I just picked up the same number of stitches. I think I knit 7 rows, 2 rows of the double knit setup for the and then the tubular bind off. So yeah, and I think that looks fine. And I did the same kind of thing on the edging here, which is what's in the pattern, and I just haven't done it on the bottom until I'm sure that the length will be all right. And hopefully these double knit things won't take me too long, but you know, I'm almost done now, so just got to make sure that everything's fitting right before I finish it up. So that's my one new work in progress. I've got 5 more works in progress to share. One of them is the Oslo hat by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting that out of Cardiff Cashmere Classic, which is more like the DK weight version, where 25 grams is 112 meters, and this is the colorway 709, I think it's called Life. And yeah, it's just a really lovely sort of a camel brown. I already made the penny gloves out of this. This yarn was gifted to me by Cardiff as part of the collaboration with Yarnacopia. And I cast this on because I had enough left over for an Oslo hat after making the penny gloves. And yeah, this is so lovely and soft. It's just beautiful. It's 100% cashmere. So obviously this is going to be the, you know, a very luxurious hat to have against the ears. I have finished I did I'm knitting it on a 3.5 millimeter needle, 112 stitches. I did a crochet provisional cast on, and then I've already picked that up, and you can see there where I've knit it together. And then I think I've only done maybe 5 more rounds and then done my German short row turn, and I've just started knitting like right side out now. So it is going to fold up like that. So that's the right side there. And yeah, it's beautiful and soft, lovely to work with. And yes, I think that's going to I think this one might be for me. I'm never quite sure, unless I already know straight away I'm making it for someone else. But I think the penny gloves and this they might actually be for me. So anyway, that's coming along very nicely, and I cast this on as my gauge swatch. for the Elisabeth blouse by Petite Knit. So the Elisabeth blouse, I'm using the same yarn, Cardiff Classic Cashmere, in the colourway May. I think that's 517, which is this gorgeous tomato red. And I think last podcast, I had just finished the short rows in the back. I haven't made a lot of progress on this because I've really been putting a lot more energy into my two newer ones. But now that they're almost done, I actually think I'll make a bit more. I'll get a bit more progress on this now. And obviously same yarn as this one, so it's beautiful and soft. I'm using a 3 point. This is the yarn that the pattern was written like using. I guess it was the yarn that was used for the pattern, but I needed to go down and knit 2 needle sizes to a 3.5 millimeter to get gauge, and so the gauge is 23 stitches. I'm knitting the smallest size, which is 35 and a half inches or 90 centimeters. So that would be about 10 centimeters of positive ease for me. And yeah, I haven't made a lot of progress. I'm just making some going down the raglan increases now, and then I've got these stitches here on waste yarn ready for like the little placket part that comes down here. My row gauge is definitely smaller. The pattern row gauge, obviously with me going down a needle size, that quite often will collapse your row gauge a little bit. So it's meant to be 8 rows an inch. I'm getting 9 rows an inch, but that should just raise the V neckline up a little bit, which works for me because I do plan to wear it as a top, not as a sweater. Yes, anyway, it hasn't had a lot of work. I've probably done about maybe 10 rows on it, but I'd like to, it's also super, super easy knitting at the moment. I'm just doing the raglan increases on the right side and purl back on the wrong. So that didn't stop me from missing one raglan increase somewhere here. So at some point I need to try to catch that up somewhere, but it's like, you miss one of those, it's not a big deal. Like you just catch it up somewhere, perhaps do like an increase on the purl row, or I'll do one more right at the end just to get my stitch count on track. But I'm definitely not ripping back all of that because I missed one raglan increase. So yep, that's the Elisabeth blouse by Petite Knit, and that yarn was also gifted to me by Cardiff as part of the collaboration with Yarnacopia. My next work in progress is the Comfort Core Socks by Summer Lee, and I'm knitting this out of 3 different scrap yarns. This one is the Louette Gems Fingering, this is Cherry Tree Hill Super Sock, and this is Cannon Hill Hand Dyes William Merino Fingering. They look so tiny. So I've just made a little bit of progress. I've done the heel flap. I had to get the right length of 2 inches there, I had to do a couple of extra rows than I think I was meant to, because when I picked up for my size, I cast on 64 stitches and I'm using 2.25 millimeter needles. When I picked up the stitches along the side, I needed to pick up 16, where I was meant to only pick up 14 for my size. But that's not a big deal. You just, when you do your gusset decreases, you just do a few more decreases. The front of the sock has this seed stitch on it. And yes, I'm just working down the gusset decreases at the moment. I normally work on magic loop, usually on a 100 centimeter needle, but I found with this, when you're doing the gusset decreases, you just on one side you have way too many stitches. So what I usually do is I usually have it arranged like that, so that it's still half rather than like 32 stitches here and 80 or something on this, which can be quite cumbersome. But I wasn't sure about having it like that and keeping myself in the seed stitch pattern. So I've been working on these signature double point needles. They're the only signature double points that I have. I thought they're expensive. I bought them to try them out. I don't really love them. So I think what I'll do is I'll switch back to my long circular needle and just have this on this side and this on this side, and then I'll put it back to front and back once I get back to the stitch count of 64 stitches. But yeah, it's just annoying me. They're quite sharp, and I just maybe it's just the way I knit. I'm just not really that much of a double point. Like it feels like, I just think it looks so pretty when I'm working on them, but it's just kind of, I don't know, must just be the way I knit. I find it a bit cumbersome. So anyway, working down that, I always feel a bit like happier once I've got the gusset decreases out of the way and I'm just on a stable stitch count. Otherwise it's just too much paying attention. Is this a decrease row or not? But yeah, they just look so tiny, crazy tiny. But yep, coming along, just making slow progress. But I don't need them for anything specifically. I think I wouldn't mind making a short version next time. But yeah, I'm curious to see how this looks with the seed stitch and then with the bit the arch support bit that's sort of ribbing in the middle. So yep, anyway, moving along just slowly. My next work in progress is the Amy Slipover, and I'm knitting that out of Sandnes Garn Sunday. I can't remember the number of this colour, but I'll put a link. All of my projects are linked in the description. That will take you to my Ravelry page, and it will have the number. These two are the same colorway. This is the Sunday, and this is the alpaca lace weight. So I'm holding those two single for the Amy Slipover. I'm using the recommended needle size of 3.5mm needles for the body and 3mm for the needle ribbing. It is a one size fits all pattern. The gauge is meant to be 23 stitches over 4 inches. Mine is much tighter. I'm getting 26 stitches. I actually haven't worked on this at all, but I thought I might show it to you this week because last week I had it on backwards. So I'll show you what it's actually meant to look like when I've got it the right way around. You can tell that this is the right way around because there's actually quite a deep V for the neckline. So, and whereas it's straight across for the back. So I've put it on waist yarn because I've been trying to figure out how long I want this. In the model photo, see if I can find it. It's in this booklet here, which I should say this yarn and the pattern booklet were gifted to me by Sandnes Garn as part of the collaboration with Yarnacopia. And this is actually quite hard to get, certainly at least in Australia. And Erica is going to have this booklet available to purchase in kits with yarn for one of the patterns in the book. So it may not quite be there when this goes live, but by this weekend, so what's that, the 12th, 13th, you should be able to get kits on the Yarnacopia site, or at least order them. And Sandnes Garn is the spotlighted yarn company at Yarnacopia until the end of April. So from this weekend, you should be able to get this. So if you wanted to make the Amy Slipover or another pattern in here, I think that's the Frankie sweater. The Jules Genser is in this booklet. It's just got absolutely. There's the Jules Genser. Isn't that gorgeous? So that's I'll talk about that in my upcoming plans. But here's the Amy Slipover. You can see where she has it like such a really high neckline. This is 10 centimeters at the moment, and it's meant to be knit to 20 centimeters, so this much again, which would like be past my eyebrows. Obviously wouldn't have it up there, but like you'd roll. I've seen the way people wear it. It's usually sort of rolled over or rolled over inwards. It's got a lot of stretch in it, right? So it's I think it could be longer and just sort of drapey over. I think that I have actually fully bound that off because I'm quite happy with. So this is the kind of shirt I'd wear it with. I'm wearing a skirt at the moment, but I'd wear it with pants. So I still have to do the ties where I actually have some I have ties and then I pick up around here. So there's actually quite a bit of knitting still to go on this, but I was focused on other knitting. So I'll come back to this now. And I'm excited too because I think it's really lovely. So I just need to get this back on the needles. I think I probably will just go another 10 centimeters and just make it the full length and let it fold over. And then I've got to pick up and do the ties. But yeah, so it was sitting like crazy before, where it was like up here because I had it around the wrong way. Anyway, right way now. And yeah, and I love this color, this dirty green. I've got a pair of pants that are in this color, but probably too close. Like I'd look a little bit matchy if I wore it with those. But maybe with some black pants or something. Anyway, I just think it's going to be really lovely. And yeah, I'm excited to get this back on the needles and get going on it. So was there anything else I wanted to say about it? No, I think that's it. Yeah, I'm really pleased that this is, because I felt a bit funny talking about it when people couldn't get hold of the booklet. So I'm really pleased that that's at least going to be available in the kits coming up soon. So I got one more work in progress to show. Actually, you know what? I may as well just talk about it now because I haven't done any work on it. This is I'll just put a picture up of it. It's actually in the car at the moment and it's living in the car. It's the Sophie scarf by Petite Knit in alpaca silk by Sandnes Garn, and I've only got the one ball of that. It's got 200 meters in it and I'm holding it double. So that's my emergency knitting. So it's in the car just in case I've got nothing to work on and I just find myself somewhere and, you know, either my knitting gets to a point that I can't work on it, or, you know, for whatever reason, you know, I forget the needles, or it's just a complicated. But having just done the Sophie Shawl, I'm definitely not in a hurry to knit on that at all at the moment. I'm kind of a bit over that pattern. And obviously the Sophie scarf is the same pattern, and I still don't have many stitches on the needles. And I probably won't get to very many because I'm only making the scarf and I only have 200 meters. So yeah, I'm not excited about that one. I'm tempted even to rip it out, but then I'm just not that kind of person. I'm definitely a finisher, and I think it will be nice, and I really like it, and I can't imagine what else I'll make with that yarn. So yeah, I think I'll just keep it as in the car knitting. I might just not talk about it anymore on this podcast unless I've actually worked on it. Yes. So, but anyway, it's a work in progress. I guess if it's not an active whip, it's not really worth talking about. So yes, just to say I haven't worked on it, and I probably won't talk about it again unless I actually have and made more. You know, if I've done 2 rows on it, I probably won't talk about it. So anyway, that's it for my works in progress. Moving on to my acquisitions and plans. First up is some of the yarn that I got from Cardiff Cashmere, the Prime. So I had some of this yarn, and with some of the Cardiff Small that I used for the Sophie Shawl, but I also got more of the same colour, and this is the leftover from the other ball, to use for a like a lace weight held double sweater. And I haven't firmed up on a pattern yet. So I've got enough, like with 300 meters in each ball, and I've got 6.5 balls here. That is about 2,000 meters. So I've got, if I'm holding it double, 1,000 meters, which should be enough for a sweater for me, to make something. And I'm still trying to figure out what. I was thinking initially of the Cumulus blouse by Petite Knit. Now that is, that's knit with like a silk mohair held double, so it's kind of designed for that kind of concept. The gauge on that is 18 stitches on a 4.5 millimeter needle. Now I haven't done a gauge swatch holding this double, so that is my next step. And just mainly to sort of see also what fabric I like. So I'll try holding it double on a 4.5 millimeter needle. Then I might also just check the gauge, check the fabric. Might try it on a 5 millimeter as well. Another pattern that I noticed, well, actually just in mentioning that there's a Cumulus blouse V-neck and O-neck. I have already knit the Cumulus T, and I own that pattern, but that's got a 28 stitch gauge knit out of their silk held single. So they're just not, like, even though it's the same kind of look, it's a very, in terms of like V-neck, raglan sweater, I-cord finishing, it's a very different gauge. So I would need to purchase the Cumulus blouse or the Cumulus, I think probably the V-neck, I think I like the V-neck, if I go for that. Another pattern that I was thinking about was the Cognac sweater that I know Sherry from Good Knits. I don't know what that bird is doing. What are they? There's magpies out there. Sorry, I don't know if you could see them. They were I could see them in the finder. They're distracting me there. We do have a lot of, I'm pretty sure it was a baby kookaburra just out my window yesterday, and I'll put a photo of that. The kookaburras are so sweet, and I love their laughter. Anyway, sorry, got distracted. The Cognac sweater that Sherry from Good Knits had made, she used a silk mohair held double. That's by Atelier Castin. There's 2 versions of it. Like, I think it's the same pattern, but you can see in the photos, there's one version where it's knit with I-cord finishing and another one where it's twisted rib finishing. Now that is a 16 stitch gauge on 6 millimeter needles, so more open and airy. So I may end up, and that also has like contiguous shoulder increases, and then like that sort of set in sleeve straight line like that, as opposed to the raglan, which I think looks quite elegant actually. So I am quite tempted by that. The other pattern that I saw was the CP05 V-neck by Minimi Designs, and that has a 16 stitch gauge on 5 millimeter needles. So that one's got a very deep V, and it's worn on the model with like nothing underneath. And yeah, just even though it looks super pretty and elegant, I just don't see myself wearing that. So sorry if that those birds. Anyway, Sorry, I'm trying to stop getting distracted. Anyway, so they're my possible plans. I'd love to hear if there's any other ones that you have seen that you think look really beautiful. I don't think I'd want to go for a gauge any larger than 16 stitches, but who knows, right? This is very fluffy. So I guess that's my next thing to do, is to start a swatch, and I'll try it on 4.5mm and then move up to a 5, 5.5, 6. That's a fair bit of swatching, but you know, it's lovely to work with, and I'm curious to see what the fabric looks like held double. So it certainly looks really lovely with the small, and I'm sure it would look nice with the classic as well. But so that's one of my plans. Another plan that I plan to do is hang on, I've got to grab the yarn. So I've been planning to make the Melides dress by Vert Knit, and I already have the yarn Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in this colorway black. And I was chatting with Ailsa when we were down at the Australian Yarn Show, and she wants to make this as well. So that's Ailsa from We Are Wool People. So we talked about starting this in May, and even though that's coming into our winter here in Sydney, I don't see myself. I think this is a very long-term project for me. So maybe if I start it in May, I might get it finished by November. Like, I want it to be that thing that I just do a little bit on at a time. So I have knit with this yarn before for the Cumulus blouse, Cumulus tee, in a different colour, and I got 3.5, on a 3mm needle I got 25 stitches over 4 inches, so 24, 25, and obviously I knit that over the whole blouse, so that's a huge gauge swatch, but it was a different colourway. Anyway, I'm not going to make a whole dress without another gauge swatch. I'm also thinking on the 3mm, I don't know, this is a dress, right? And it's going to go around my backside. So I do want a bit, like maybe a little bit tighter, less open. So I'm thinking maybe trying swatching on a 2.75mm needle. The last time I swatched with this yarn, when I swatched for the Cumulus tee, in the pink colour, I actually got something like 27 stitches over 4 inches in my swatch, which then stretched out massively. So I don't really know that I even trust a swatch. So I'll have to have a bit of a read of the pattern and see if maybe like I can just cast on, because it's very much a pattern where you sort of fit it to your size, that maybe I can cast on and start and then use like the start of it as my massive gauge swatch. Anyway, I need to read the pattern a little bit more, but yeah, I'm excited to start that. I'd like to start that maybe on May the 1st. I just need to commit to doing it, because otherwise it's such a large project. I can just see myself kicking that can down the road, going, yeah, I'll do that later, and just kind of overwhelming myself with it. Whereas if I just start, so I'm going to sit down and read the pattern a little bit and see if there's any way I can get away with just going down to a 2.75mm needle and kind of guessing at my gauge, and then, you know, modifying it to fit me after I've sort of gotten going on it. So, but anyway, I have the pattern. Pattern was gifted to me, but I just need to actually read it and work out if I can just actually get started. So that's an upcoming plan. Another upcoming plan, where did I put the book? Is the dual. So there's a podcast, a newish podcast by two girls in the US called Liz and Paige, and they are friends, and that's the name of their podcast, and they are friends with Jessica and Rachel from Those Twins Who Knit, and they're doing a yellow knit-along. So I got this yarn Knitting for Olive in the colourway Elderflower? Yeah, Elderflower, which is this really lovely soft yellow, and I plan to make the Jules Genser out of that. And yep, so I'm going to, that knit along I think starts on the 15th of April, which is only a few days away. So, and this is actually only held single in that pattern. So yep, I plan to, there's going to be a lot of like fluff flying around in my knitting if I'm going to have this held double, this held single. But yeah, really lovely, light, hopefully very wearable pieces. So that's, and I don't actually think I have anything much yellow in my wardrobe, so that will be quite nice. And the other plans, I mean, that theoretically that sounds like a lot already, especially when this one's a dress, but this is going to be one that's just, you know, getting a little bit at a time. And I also am thinking like this is, you know, cashmere and silk, silk mohair, silk. probably, even though I've got some wool on the needles, they may get finished up. So I started thinking, what other wool do I want, like sort of wool project do I want on the needles? So, and I got this yarn for, this is Sandnes Garn Sunday. I bought this yarn. I got this for the Lyon sweater. I meant to hold this double. It's just a really nice striped oversized sweater that I think will be really wearable for me here in Sydney, because we're coming into our winter. So I think that's going to be my next wool sweater project. And the two other things that I just sort of, I'm pulling all of this from my 2025 plan. So I'll just put a picture up there. That's my little spreadsheet. And I've been sort of updating it with strike throughs when I finish things. And then if I add something that's new, especially if it's yarn that's new, it goes in blue, and then a strike through if I finished it. So the other things that were on my plans was the Adamson vest. And I was thinking about, I bought this. This is the actual yarn for the pattern. This is Woolfolk 2, and there's only 3. I've only got 3. I think I only need 3 skeins for my size. So that should be a pretty quick knit. So that's another vest. Then I'm kind of into the vests at the moment. I only made 1 vest last year. So anyway, I've got all these vest plans. And the other one is the Emery vest by Joji Locatelli. And see, the nice thing about this is actually, and I'm kind of excited about that, this is a yarn I've never tried. And now this is a yarn that I've not used before. This is Holskarn. This is for like I already said, Emery vest by Joji Locatelli. This is the Holskarn Super Soft and Titicaca. And so I got this a little while ago from Jane from Mindful Making before she moved back to, I don't think it's in Amsterdam. She's definitely Danish. Before she moved back, Denmark? I'm sounding so ignorant. Before she moved back to Denmark, she used to have a shop she was living in Australia and had a shop selling these. So I bought this from her before she moved back. And this seems to be a really popular combo, the Titicaca with the Holskarn Super Soft. So, and I've really been thinking about wanting to work with, more different, that sounds terrible, work with yarns that I haven't tried before. So that's kind of a bit of a focus for me this year. And that Emery vest is both a vest and a pullover, but I plan to make the vest version. I only have enough yarn for the vest version, but I think it will be really pretty. And I think that pink is a really lovely soft pink that would look really nice over a white blouse. Anyway, that's it for my upcoming plans, which is way more than I can, get through in a short period of time, but it's nice to be thinking what's next on the needles. So that's it for the knitting content. It's nearly school holidays here. Tomorrow's the last day of term and I've got 2 weeks off. So I might actually even be able to do weekly recording, and I've got a few tutorials that I plan to do. So I'll be able to get started on a few of those hopefully in the holidays. But that's it for now for the knitting content. Hopefully there'll be a few more regular videos until I go back to school next term. So just a little bit of personal stuff. If you're leaving me now, thank you so much for being here, and I might be back in a week, hopefully, fingers crossed. Personal stuff, it's been 2 weeks since I last recorded. I went to trivia 2 weeks ago, which was really fun. That was with my daughter and her boyfriend and his family. And yeah, we had a really good time. We were not the worst in the room and certainly not the best in the room, but it was just good fun and quite complementary with our different knowledge and skills. My husband is American, so he knew all of the, American trivia knowledge. I don't really know that I have a particular expertise, but yes, anyway, it was fun. Thursday nights are hard for me because I teach early Thursday and Friday morning, but it was really nice. It was a good time. And let me see what else. I taught some classes at Skein Sisters, and they were full classes. They were really busy, and that was always that was a lot of fun. I taught Short Rows and Fair Isle, both really enjoyable. I always the yarn store is really close to IKEA, and I always have this idea that I'll go to IKEA afterwards, but I'm like, after 5 hours of teaching, I'm kind of like, I'm almost catatonic. Even though I love it, I'm just kind of like driving home, just like I want, a cup of tea and to just sit in front of the telly. So yes, I don't think I have another class at Skein Sisters until May, but I am doing a class at like our local community centre in the holidays, so I do have that coming up. just in general in the holidays, I want to do some sewing. I say this every holidays and then I don't do it. So you can hold me accountable. Not that you can actually hold me accountable, but you can call me out in the comments if I don't sew at all these holidays. I do plan to sew, and I really want to get my the Babylon leather bag that I was making. I still haven't finished that. I've still got like just finishing the last handle. I don't think I've touched it all term. And Alex is taking her bag around with her everywhere. I see her, like, she takes it to work, to the gym, and she loves it. So I definitely want to get mine finished. And my daughter's still got Mia. I got one for her. Like Babylon Leather gifted these to us. So maybe if I get started on mine in the holidays, she might get, we can sit and do some sewing together, because that's, it's nice to do together, whether it's knitting or sewing or crafting. I do enjoy doing that with others. So I think that's kind of, in terms of other holiday plans, it's basically just to get some tutorials done. I do actually have some work I have to do. It seems like there's always a new syllabus out. We have a new syllabus coming out next year. So I do have a bit of work I need to do these holidays for that. Other than that, it will just be nice to not be waking up 3 mornings a week for 7 a.m. starts. And anyway, that's enough, I think, for now. Hopefully I'll be back next week with another video, and I'll see you then.